Okay, we're live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of EduWiki Live. My name is Siraj Abdallah, and I'm a program assistant with the education team at Wikimedia Foundation. The theme of this event today is gender inclusiveness. And today we're going to be joined by Ana Maria Espinoza, our moderator or panelist, and our guest speaker, Veronica Thamanini. Just to give you a brief background about Ana Maria. So Ana Maria is the organizer, lab instructional designer contractor at Wikimedia Foundation, and a happy certified trainer of the TOT program, Reading Wikipedia in the Classroom, organized by education team at Wikimedia Foundation. So she's also working as an instructional designer with the CRS's SA virtual platform in the agriculture area. Welcome, Ana Maria. So I'll hand over the mic to you.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I'm really excited to be part of this session and moderating the EduWiki and sharing with this community and with the amazing speaker that we are going to have today. I'm glad to introduce Veronica Taini. I'm going to read a small introduction. She's amazing. Veronica Taini has over 7 years of broad geographic experience in program management in developing issues, including education, gender equality, and technology for development. She finds fulfillment when working on programs and focus on the equitable development of community through sustainability innovations. She currently serves as a senior program officer, community resource, Middle East and Africa for Wikimedia Foundation. As part of the community resources team, she supports communities with finding opportunities on other resources, ensuring that the free knowledge of Wikipedia and its sister projects is available and accessible to anyone worldwide. Before joining Wikimedia Foundation, she worked with organizations such as Creative Action Institute across Africa and projects focused on gender equality and building sustainability planet. The project is entitled to developing and implementing training, a customized consulting service. In a donor foundations, the project includes gender responsive pedagogy for teacher education and East Africa Girls Leadership Program. And Sauti Jada, which work with adolescent girls through East Africa. And Veronica is also a live soft skill facilitator for Architrage, whose mission is to provide most promising young women in Africa with technology and entrepreneurial skills. That is amazing. Thank you, Veronica. I'm so happy to be sharing with you this day. I'm also a technology lover. I think we have that in common. So welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good early morning, good late night. I hope you're all well. As Ana Maria mentioned, I'm Veronica. I'm more excited to be sharing this space with you in learning together, in discussing together, in exploring together the issue of gender inclusion in education. I like to say I am no expert, and I look forward to co-creating this space and learning together and bringing what I know from before Wikimedia Foundation and at Wikimedia Foundation, bringing that different forms of experiences and knowledge gained from both spaces to this conversation.
Great. I'm a lover of technology, and I'm also not that much knowing about that, all the things that we make, but we just want to make a discussion about that. So I'm going to start with the first question is, what does gender inclusion look like in education for you?
I think for me, when I think of gender inclusion in education, I think it begins with recognizing the value that education holds to every human being. And I think for me, that is just that it allows every human being to realize and to have the opportunity. You may not even realize, but you at least hold the opportunity to realize your the full potential as a human being. And that's really valuable, and education plays a huge role in that. And then we look at who then is involved in this realization of the full human potential enabled by education. Is we have educators and we have learners themselves. And these two groups of people who at some point, were all learners, we're all learning, are human beings and hold immense diversity in themselves. And with that diversity, then there's a recognition, which we now see more and more, that because of that diversity, that has meant that access to education has looked very differently for some people, and for some people, they've accessed that others have not. And I see that's where, when we think about gender inclusion, recognizing that gender has been one of those diversity factors that has led to people not being engaged in education processes. And this is amongst other diversities, whether that's, we've talked about gender, there's race, there's ethnicity, there's cultural backgrounds, there's socioeconomical, and gender being one then recognizes that it may have led to different forms of exclusion or marginalization, or bringing us, some type of vulnerability and inequality in education access. So when we go back to the question, then with that knowledge, what does gender inclusion look like in education? Then we're thinking of measures. I'm thinking of what measures can we take to ensure that we're getting closer to making sure that every gender is included in education. And the quite number we could think of, for example, just ensuring that when we think of participation, that there's equal representation, or there's equality in representation of genders, that inclusive and responsive, gender inclusive and responsive policies are in place to guide the need to have this representation, that the curriculum or the training materials we're developing are taking into consideration the different factors that may make different genders not participate in education processes, and that we are also recognizing those barriers that may be making it impossible or difficult or challenging for any particular gender to access an opportunity in education. And that many things, it's access and use of resources, there's infrastructure, there's issues of safety, and lastly, taking time to know more about the learner or the person seeking education, and where they are. So their context, their community that may be contributing to participation or lack of participation.
I used to be a professor before. It's my cat, I'm sorry. I used to be a professor before, and I just witnessed all the things that education can do for the girls. And I feel like when it's important to have these spaces, I'm sorry, my cat. It's important to have these spaces because of you can put the faces of people who are working, or women that are working with technology, and can have that role model to the students or the women who wants to live on technology. So I'm so happy to hear what you say. I'm really agree with all that, and I feel like education can make really huge change to make to make a path and get where girls want to be. I have seen a lot of girls that hasn't not that much money to go to university, but they can have a scholarship, and then their life just change a lot. It's just a lot. They can have a better working, because I used to be a professor in social communication. They can have a work where they can develop all the technology that they may want to, and all the things that are really good for them and have the life they want to be. Education makes people have the to go beyond the gap that they used to be before. So I'm gonna ask you another question: is what steps can be taken to ensure gender inclusiveness in Wikimedia and the education space?
Yeah, and before I even get to the question, there's something you've mentioned about what education can do. And one thing that I have seen that it does, that sometimes we don't realize how powerful it is just showing someone that there is a different possibility, number one, a different possibility, and sometimes an alternative to what they may know. And you know, people know of Mandela's famous quote of education is the key. And indeed it is the key, because it brings a lot of possibilities to a person. So coming back to the question around the steps we can take to ensure inclusiveness in Wikimedia and education, I'm of the belief of making the steps informed by data to the extent possible. And that comes from just knowing where do we stand and where do we stand. And I think a lot of effort and steps have already been made in making people know, when we talk about gender inclusiveness, what's informing this call, what's informing this need. And this has been done in the Wikimedia movement by many groups. A great example is Wiki Project, Women in Red, and that already shows the different gender gaps that exist. And the gender gap is both when we look at the content, when you think about what am I reading, what's the content, and then we also think about who was the contributor. So the participation gender gap, recognizing that who is shaping this knowledge, but also the narrative within the knowledge. And I think with knowing where we stand, looking at the two of them, also creates an opportunity when we go back to the previous question of what does gender inclusion look like in education. It's also calling us to identify those intersectionalities and where that lens of knowing that, yes, I'm looking at a content gender gap, but let me focus, for example, coming from the African continent, let me look, when I'm looking at the continent, wearing the lens of an African, what is this, are there gaps that exist in the content? Who has contributed to this? Who's shaping this narrative? There's always the mostly I've heard of this line many times, that Wikipedia has more articles about Paris than it does about the whole of Africa. And that's just highlighting an intersectionality, that when we think, oh, we need, let's for example, let's promote more content, ask yourself the question, and who will do that, and who will partake that? And then coming back to gender issues, thinking of, as when we're addressing the who, and looking at, for example, there's always a question about women's stories, women's representation, women's knowledge, where those, there's always a question of the sources. And it is, I was reading a report called The Missing Perspectives of Women, that shows that when we look at news and media, the representation of women protagonists is so underrepresented. And that then results to, when we're writing the biographies, for example, and you want to cite, you're really having a challenge. So all this coming back to, zooming out and saying, but where do we stand? We want to make these steps, but where do we stand? What has been done? And then after that, getting into having intentional focus, with clear roles. I think sometimes we know where we want to go, we know that the agenda we want to achieve, but then we need to assign roles and say, you're a teacher in your classroom, what can you do? You're an educator, what can you do? You're a policymaker, what can you do? You're working on infrastructure, let someone lead the conversation about infrastructure access. Or you're a journalist, you're in the news agency, there's a gap here, can you actually address that? And the same, this is mostly in Wikimedia, but the same applies in education, and with time taking a space to actually measure and learn from the progress or not progress we're making, and making sure that we're sharing the learnings with others who share in this mission or in this goal around education globally, because we are a global movement. And I think we hold a lot of wisdom and experiences and knowledge that the world would benefit from.
From my view of the woman, yes. And I know that almost everyone knows about the feminist plus art. I'm a part of the Wikimedia El Salvador. So the first steps that was taken in El Salvador was Wikimedia plus art. And it was the way I started in Wikimedia, because I just loved the details they were doing and all those kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that Wikimedia has taken steps forward to do that, to try to don't be in that gap and all that things. So thank you so much. I think Abdali is gonna say another question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronica, for those wonderful insights. I'm just wondering, how can Wikimedians who want to ensure gender inclusion in their projects ask the right questions or gather the right data to determine who is excluded and why?
Mm-hmm. I always go back to Paulo Freire's theories. That's, I'm doing injustice. I'll try to summarize that. We inherently hold the knowledge. We hold we have that wisdom, we have the experiences, we hold the answers to our challenges. And that then calls us to go to the people, to take time to sit and listen and learn. Someone once said, you want to understand an issue, go where they are, spend time there, sit, be in their day-to-day, and you will, gain a lot of data in trying to understand, number one, am I even addressing the right issue? Is this an issue for, let's say, community X or target group, target audience X? And then with that, getting from that and asking the right questions. And it's not from a point of lacking, but a point of, I'll say, appreciating, recognizing what there is and what could be more. And then working closely with the community or the target audience to actually design the right questions and actually get that data, validate the data as always, and determine what would be useful next steps. I sometimes, just having worked in development, sometimes we're very quick to go to responding to what we think the problem is, ready to jump to the solution without taking time to sit with the data and understand if we are truly addressing the issue. And then, of course, there are very many frameworks that could guide that process, so leveraging those. But approaching it from a point of, these are the questions we're going to experiment and see if we can respond. We're responding, not answering, we're responding to these questions. And with time taking opportunities, coming back to the previous question about the types, opportunities to learn, You experiment, you learn, and you move to the next step without and allowing yourself. There's the concept of, just fail fast. If you identify the wrong question, it's okay to say, I think we're heading in the wrong direction. Can we go back? And that way, with time and having spent time with the community, you're better placed to actually understand that the gender inclusion in the projects that you're doing is heading in the right direction.
I think, Veronica, that it's amazing all the things that you are saying, because I always say to my students when I was working at the university that technology without thinking is not useful. We have to think before doing the content, and after that we are gonna create things. So just complementary what you're saying, I just learned when I was doing the lab organization, the organization lab part of the e-learning, and working with Alex, I learned there are two tools that can be used to search where are the gaps, and we can try to fill it in the language that we have. There is the one that I'm remember right now, the PET scan. And another thing that blows my mind completely when I learned that could be that you can put code on a profile of Wikipedia, and then you can know how much views are doing some kind of articles. So by that, we can have like the complementary things that you were saying about the thinking about how to do it, because without that, we cannot just proceed to do the things about the code and trying to know with PetScan Wikimedia. That is like saying that there are many things that are in English or in our language, but are not in our language, that is important to have, because that is a way to guide the narratives that are in our countries or in our culture. So yeah, it's amazing. I don't know if
and such resources, sometimes it was like, can you imagine if that resource was shared with all the language groups we have in Wikimedia? Mind blowing. Yeah.
I was like so happy when I found that. The other question, I don't know if Vala wants to make another question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Veronica, and thank you very much, Anna Maria. So what best practices do you recommend for designing training materials and curricula championing gender equality?
Yeah, I would say when you're developing curricula or training, I think it's important to understand your, I'll use in this case the learner, to know where are they and what do they need, and is it aligning with their own goals as a learner as well, and ensuring that gender lens of recognizing, even like I think 2 sentences ahead, even like when you're doing the training process, that you're taking into consideration, what do I want to teach? What examples am I using? Are they gender inclusive? Are they representative of the people in the room culturally? Are they taking into recognition language diversity, for example, cultural diversity? Are they also taking into consideration, I would say, like technical expertise? If, for example, you're holding a training in a remote place, a rural community, are you taking time to think, part of the training requires that they use a certain device? Do they have this device, or do I need to prepare as a trainer to ensure that these devices are there? Or the community I'm going to linguistically, they need X type of support. Am I speaking, am I cognizant of that linguistic diversity in the room? I think there's a lot that comes with just taking time to understand the learners in the room, even before you bring the content. And if you understand who will be in the room, that can inform how you develop the content, ensuring that it's inclusive, and that it's inclusive, but leading you to your goal as well. The other bit is to think about things such as, I'm moving to the training, to think of what roles do the people in the room hold? For example, if I'm holding a training and it's mostly with young women who also hold different responsibility, or with girls, or with boys who hold particular roles in their homes or in their community, then even my agenda is going to look a little bit different. Post-training materials or assignments are also going to look very different, because they're taking into recognition that these people hold particular, roles. And that also takes us back. Sorry, I'm moving all around the curriculum and training. It also starts with coming back again to thinking of who will be my learner in the training, who is the curriculum being written for. You're also taking into consider, where are they coming from? Will they come? What will stop them from coming, or what will encourage them from coming? If you're in a place where, for example, you're working with young men, and these young men, part of the key role they hold is economic, making sure that they're providing economically, or they hold culturally, they hold that role. You're going to be cognizant of when to put a training. Maybe the weekends will be better, and maybe not a Tuesday. Or if you're holding a training and the participants, you're thinking about safety as well of the participants, you might not hold a training at 7 p.m. or you might try to finish by 4 p.m. so that if there are any, there are safety concerns by the women in the room or other genders, then you're responding to those needs. And I think that's when we talk about inclusivity and gender responsiveness, that's what you're looking at. And someone then, what does that do is that they feel seen, cared for, and understood, and that you really want them to succeed. And they bring themselves, they bring that confidence, and with that confidence empowers their agency to fulfill what you're learning and in the session, but also beyond the session.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Maria, would you like to take it from there?
Yes, just complimentary, because Veronica is awesome explaining everything. I'm loving this. One of the things that we think about when we are creating a e-learning course or something like that is about representations, more than like trying to, because my background are also for graphic design, we are looking for a picture or something that can feel the person be part of it. It's like representation is really important when we are creating the graphic examples to do all that content we are creating. In CRS, that I'm doing a work of instructional designer, that we are doing a course that is made for agriculture, where we want to include women that get that course, to trying to get their knowledge more about that. So we are thinking always about, I think you do also, like representation pictures and the way we talk and the things they are doing, so we can have that connection and they can feel like acompañadas, like being part of all that. Yeah,
part of it. Yeah. And one thing that we did in the gender responsive toolkit for teachers is creating space for the learner to be part of that process, and that's part of the inclusion. It's almost like, let's open our books. There's an image we've been seeing for years. I remember in some of the books we learned with, Mr. Kamau was always the driver, and Mrs. Kamau was always in the kitchen and asking the learners, and this is very useful in also engaging critical thinking in saying, could this image be different? Is what do you notice about this image? Okay, let's redesign it, and then they're part of it. So just coming back to Abdallah's question, I think an addition is taking time to review materials and language use as a gender inclusive or responsive trainer or curriculum developer. You need to be aware of what are those biases that we may already be so useful that you just keep turning the page and you're like, oh, same image, but never step back to say, wait a minute, something is not right here. Are these same materials perpetuating the same things that you as a person are trying to support your learners in learning? So thank you so much, Ana Maria, for that.
Okay, so I may ask another question is like, what impact does gender equality have on the participation, effectiveness, and quality of education programs?
Yeah, I think it just speaks to what you mentioned, what I mentioned before, that overall, what does it do? It allows human beings to fulfill their potential by them being able to participate in spaces that see them, that allows them to feel seen, heard, values, that eliminates some of the barriers that make them not make that step, allows them to fulfill that potential. For when we think of effectiveness, the achievement of the objectives you have in mind, by having open spaces and spaces for them to also partake in the learning process without feeling as if they're marginalized, or the vulnerability of marginalization is being used, what do I say, to their disadvantage. And less of it being seen as we see these, let's make sure we're eliminating these barriers. And then in terms of quality of education programs, that overall, because they support us, they support human beings in achieving their human potential, that everyone then has access. And with everyone having access, they can bring their full self. And by bringing their full self, then I guess they're fulfilling what they want to do, and that can speak to quality. Of course, ensuring that we have put in place, I'll say, frameworks of guidance that bring us closer or support us in knowing that we're measuring against the indicators of quality we've put in place. A good example is there's many free education programs, but while there are very many free education programs that led to having more students in the classroom, which is great, what is the quality of that education that they're getting in that classroom? It's very different when you're in a classroom of 30 and the teacher is able to track your learning progress and needs. And it's very different when you're in a class of 100 and it's the same teacher. There's even the question of where you're learning, the space, the environment, and truly how much the teacher can give you. So while there's a progress we're making in achieving gender equality, when we think about how it intersects with other goals such as education, we need to take those into consideration as well.
Thank you so much. I have another question that is just for our members. Is there any experience that you may feel like you really love it because of the results, or all the things that you have gone through? There is something that you say, oh, I really feel like this is in my heart because I felt that something was improving
so if I get you an experience that I want to say an experience that I experienced that informs everything that I do. I have one. I have two, but I'll focus on one. In 2020, in the previous organization, Creative Action Institute, I had the chance to work with a team and do some work. And we were doing it in the US, in the Boston Public Library. That's what it is, the Boston Public Library. So that's where we were supposed to meet. And, they come from Boston. So like, tomorrow, let's meet at the Boston Public Library. And I was like, great. So, but when I was there, I was like, here, before you go to a library, you need your ID, you need, in some places, you might need to pay a fee. I'm based in Kenya, so you might need to pay a fee, especially for some libraries. Some nowadays you don't have to, but back then you needed to. But you at least need to show some ID. So I thought maybe I'll need to use my passport. So the next day came and I got to the library. No one asked me anything. People looked like they knew where they were going, and I went on, I sat somewhere, and for a moment I was like, and then when I sat, I had access to the internet. I had access to a good desk with lighting and books that I could just pick. There's no one who was asking me for anything. And for a moment, it dawned on me about, that I kept asking, will we ever get here that I could walk into such a huge library? Anyone can access it, and I could read any book, and there's enough lighting, there's enough facilities. And for a moment, I'm very optimistic, but sometimes I become very realistic. I was like, for sure, in my village, this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and it's okay. Because and why I said it's okay is because I recognize, and this was before I joined Wikimedia, that we have other resources. And the one I thought about even before joining Wikimedia was Wikipedia. And for me, that's a representative of when we think about possibility, alternative, because when one is not there, Wikipedia is there, the library is not there, but we do have the knowledge that, we use, we need, we consume. It is present on Wikipedia. And for me, going back to, would I access this in my village? Yeah, I could, but then I would need to have access to a smartphone, and with a smartphone, but at least I'll get to look for, we say Google something, but really what you're doing is Wikipedia something, and find the knowledge. And for me, that's a continuous reminder of what access to information, to knowledge, why it's so important, and what that can do, and the value, the role I see, for example, Wikipedia playing is just democratizing the access of knowledge, and giving power, shifting that power dynamic of who has access and whose knowledge is represented is so powerful. There are not so many spaces where anyone can truly contribute to knowledge. And of course, we all recognize that the journey of contributing to knowledge in Wikimedia projects is not straightforward sometimes, but that calls for guidance. We need to ensure that we're taking into consideration ease of access, ease of use. But that's my, they say the Hail Mary, my Hail Mary moment.
Thank you so much. I think I'm going to ask you about another thing, but Abdallah. Yes. Go on.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing with us that Hail Mary situation for you, a moment. Yeah, I agree that access is very important, and democratizing education and knowledge, and paving way for different people to access it without putting in different barriers is something very important. Yeah, then just wondering, we usually have a training of trainers program called Reading Wikipedia in the Classroom. And according to the data that we have gathered so far, some of our certified trainers have faced the challenge of low attendance of female teachers during their training. So according to your experience, what advice do you give to those organizing similar trainings or events to ensure gender equality?
Mm-hmm. I would come back to something we've shared before about taking time to listen to those who come. To those who come, ask them, well, where are your friends? Who else is in your school? Are there other female teachers that you can bring? Is there a reason? Is there, when you ask such questions, they reveal sometimes so much that you didn't even take into consideration. When I worked with teachers before, and you send an invitation and you think, oh, you'll get 5 teachers and 1 show up, and you follow up, you'll find that maybe there's a school policy around participation in events, and sometimes there's internal school policies that we can't have 5 teachers leaving. And the other thing to remember is that the role the teacher plays is sometimes is more than what we see. The places you will find one teacher is not just the mathematics teacher, is also the English teacher, the biology teacher. And depending on when the training is, and what time it means, could be 5 classes have missed lessons. So I would say go back and just listen to your participants and your learners' needs in trying to understand why a female teacher is not coming in. The other thing to check is around maybe the requirements to participate, if they need to come with particular devices or tools. Do they hold these tools? Many studies have shown that when you look at between men and women who owns what device, a lot of the time women don't own the same devices men own. So if you're expecting them to maybe come with a laptop, maybe that will not be possible. And if that's not possible, are you making provisions for that? And are you communicating that you don't need to come with any device? You already have that. And then there's the other bit that we talked about, the timing really matters. People hold different roles. So if it's the weekend, what time in the weekend? Is it they work Monday to Friday, depending on the school, Monday to Saturday. So the weekend is precious to some. So when are you doing that? With listening, you're able to even see opportunities of maybe engaging this being a school, the school being a partner in the training, so that then it's almost like it's an in-house professional development training, and that contributes to they're professional as a teacher, which the school wants to. You're also thinking about, when we talk about the advocacy, and you're thinking about, you're looking for allies and why they will be for you or against you. You're also thinking of what's in the interest of the department head, or the school head, or the district head, education head, that would make them really embrace this training. And then also positioning it, the motivation as well, positioning or tapping into the motivation that coming back to the gaps, there's already a gap in those contributing to the knowledge and the knowledge represented. So I think there's an opportunity to tap into that narrative and showing that you will be contributing to this closing this gap. So I would say those are some of the things I would what's the word, suggest.
Just to complement, there are things that we were, well, when I start trying to put in practice the reading Wikipedia in the classroom here in El Salvador, one of the huge things that I find it was like the time was a issue, a really huge issue, because they have to give classes in the morning. They have two jobs, even because they can have struggles with the money, so they have to take two jobs to do it. So the time was a big issue for us, and trying to find the possible time that will be, it was difficult. One of the example was my sister. My sister works for a school, and I was trying to do my benchmarking, like, look, there is a possibility like your co-workers can go and have this class, and they were like, I will love to participate on this, but since I have my family, I have the two jobs that I have to do. I have to take care of all the things, not because it's imposed, it's just because we are used to do it, and we can just not stop in doing the things. So she told me that can be an issue. So I'm still working, trying to put in practice here in El Salvador reading Wikipedia. So yeah, it's really important to think about timing. As you said, there is a question from the chat, and it's like, hi, thank you for presentation. I have a question. What kind of strategy promotes the role of female editors on Wikipedia from the school? Greetings from Colombia.
Do you want to start, Ana Maria?
What kind of strategy promotes the role of female editors from Wikipedia in the school? Well, I think it will be a good role from the teachers, right? Even if you are in my personal experience, I was in the university, and I was teaching one of the part of the reading Wikipedia in the classroom, but in the university for the students. And most of all the students who was falling in love with Wikimedia and Wikipedia stuff was girls, and they were amazed by all the things that Wikipedia can be, because reading Wikipedia in the classroom is like the thing that people used to say here in El Salvador, like Wikipedia is a thing that people just write things and they do it like without any truth. So passing for all that content for my students, and that make you feel like they were empowerment about writing in Wikipedia. And most of the people who was writing articles after all that reading Wikipedia in the university course that I taught were women, and they were so happy to do all those kind of things. So I think it's like the approach, and maybe the role can be other teachers doing that and trying to say, hey, there is technology. It's awesome to be on technology. It's so entertaining, and it can change your life, and it can change all the I forgot the word, but all the content can make another El Salvador, another country, another Colombia, if we are writing about this. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, and would add just to the teachers is we say we dream of what we see. We dream what we see. We dream of what we see. And when I think of the role that the female editors can play is, where possible, be visible. And I think with you being visible, others see and feel that, I'm represented and there's someone who's there who can guide me, who if I write something and does not have a citation, this is very useful data to find about of the admins we have, what's the gender disaggregated data, for them to know that if I write an article and I make a mistake, I know Anna Maria, if she's an admin, will correct me very well. But where I'm getting it to is be visible. I think even with many smaller emerging communities, it's by them, and I've had many Wikimedians say that when they went to an event and saw the other Wikimedians who have, other Wikimedian volunteers, there's a sense of validation and inspiration that almost validates your sense of belonging in the movement. So I would, in addition, to what Anna Maria said, I would say, be visible, and more will come where possible. I have to put that where possible. We know sometimes it's not possible.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Veronica and Anna Maria, for articulating issues to do with gender inclusiveness today. Just to go back just a little bit, so what steps do you think Wikipedia and its sister projects, how are Wikipedia and its sister projects leveraging their position as open education sources to ensure gender inclusiveness in education?
Yeah, so I would almost go back to the story, my Boston library story, and how already in my mind, without knowing the much I now know about, especially the sister projects and the language projects, the wiki language projects, I think the position of being, first of all, just being there as an opportunity for open and free knowledge is very powerful, because it's coming back to when we talk about knowledge equity, that it is living to that ambition, that promise, and then that it's positioning itself as providing us with an opportunity to shift power dynamic when we talk about who writes my story. It's very important that the person writing in the story are representative, are factual and representative, and then that we have an opportunity to continuously improve the diversity of the knowledge that exists and that needs to be created, that needs to be representative. So that's a challenge for all of us. And when I think of the goal, for example, with the reading Wikipedia in the classroom around media information and literacy skills, that I feel Wikipedia and its projects in a very great position to impart skills, especially to young people in the world, that allows them to develop what everyone calls them 21st century skills, the the transversal skills that they're able to learn. There's a lot of learning that goes to contributing to any Wikiverse project. And also the other bit that I see that we could leverage the Wikipedia and its project in relation to open education is that it's when we go back, for example, to the pandemic, which continues in different ways. But at the beginning, when schools had to be closed, many learners lost the opportunity to continue with their education, because a lot of what's needed to learn was in the classroom. And I when we look at this Wikiversity, these Wikibooks, there's so much opportunity that I feel we haven't even scratched when we think about open education resources. Sometimes that is a great opportunity for students and to still access learning opportunities when they're not in the classroom or when the teacher is not there. But then we need the considerations we need to take into account. Number one is around youth protection. That needs to be there, and other gender considerations. If a student is accessing a platform, they need to know that I will be safe, and the information I will get will understand I am a child and is going to benefit me. And then the other consideration is around ease of access, the tools, that there's the device, but there's also the internet connection. And a benefit, we've seen many Wikimedia projects that have mentors and guides really become very successful. So having that person to support your journey. And yeah, I think overall, also knowing, especially for teachers, that there's a community that they are part of. They're not just venturing into leveraging Wikimedia and its sister projects by themselves, that there is a community that can support them, that can provide that guidance, and that can show them all these amazing, incredible resources that we are all honored to be part of.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Do you have any closing remarks you want to give to our audience as we wind up?
Anna Maria, I can go and then you can finish. Okay. No. I think it's been a fantastic session. Such an honor. Again, it's refreshing for me. I come from a home of educators, and that's the other experience that informs why I work in education and want to work in education. In the bio, Abdallah shared one thing that I never had, that I'll share now, is one of my main goals, recognizing the power of education is many years to come, is to work in the Ministry of Education. Just also coming back to recognizing how powerful education is, and it's amazing that Wikimedia and Wikipedia and its sister projects can contribute to education goals and the right to education. But thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Veronica, for gracing us on this event. And thank you very much, Anna Maria, for moderating and also jumping in here and there. So Anna Maria, do you have some closing remarks?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here again. I just enjoyed a lot to share with you, Veronica, and learning a lot about you and all the work you are doing at the Wikimedia, Africa and the war, everything. So I just want to make a few remarks things about the things that we are saying. I think like the representation is important in Wikimedia. We can make that windows to be like open, wide open, and the content that we are uploading, and we can support all of the literature that we are supporting to our country, to our culture, and to the whole world from a view from the world we are. And the thing that you say, like literacy, media, information is important to be part of all this. So much. Thank you and all that.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. Those who have been on YouTube, thank you very much for asking and being curious about this topic. Thank you very much to our panelists, and thank you very much to our guest speaker. We have come to the end of the EduWiki Live. Catch you in the next episode. Bye.